Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and it's your boy, the official Ramco. So, I wanted to talk about high intelligence and why it is a overrated thing, why it actually harms a lot of your relationships, to be frank, on being like on the spectrum and all of that stuff, right? So, there is this saying that a lot of women, for example, if we're taking the dating aspect of it, they claim to be sapiosexual. Sapiosexual meaning you're attracted to intelligence. I don't think that's true at all, to be frank. In fact, if that was the case, studies are showing that men that are highly intelligent are actually single. Many of them will be single for the rest of their lives. And I'm not saying this is necessarily all the women's fault. A lot of dudes that are on the high IQ spectrum, or they are very intelligent in certain aspects of life, they tend to overanalyze and just overanalyze. That's it. And that's why low IQ guys actually have a more easier dating experience, because they don't overanalyze. So let's say a low IQ guy, or a guy with low intelligence is going to approach a woman. He's not going to sit there and like overanalyze. She's going to say this, she's going to say that. He just does it, and whatever the outcome is, that's what it is. And he doesn't have this like calculated brain of probabilities and stuff like that. A lot of autistic dudes, a lot of dudes on the spectrum, high IQ people in that sense, they tend to run 1,000 different calculations in the head of what the consequences will be if they will go and approach a woman on the street. You know what I mean? We also have a very how should I say, ROI type of mindset, right? I'm one of those guys. I personally, I'm not afraid of walking up to a woman and ask her out or anything like that. To me, it's just a woman. She's just a human being. She bleeds red. You know what I mean? In fact, from a physical standpoint, I am taller, probably stronger. I don't see the reason why I should be scared in that sense. The worst thing that can happen is that she's going to say no. And of course, rejection might hurt a lot of people, both men and women. But, that's part of life, and you just have to accept that. Tough shit, right? And but the way I see it is that, if 9 out of 10 times they're gonna say no, what's the point? But then I can argue against myself and say, it's not so much about them saying no, it's also about practicing a social muscle. Like, it's almost like a muscle thing. So you don't even have to only talk to women. I mean, you can talk to random people, right? Just, you can start a conversation just simply by asking where that mall is, or where that park is, or whatever. And then you could just spin it, with that, you can build on that. My problem is, I guess, is that I just get easily bored with small talk. I don't like talking about celebrities and gossip and different series and stuff like that. I like to talk about very heavy intellectual shit, and I understand that majority of the masses don't mess with that, let alone women. I mean, on the female side, it's perhaps more so about Kim Kardashian, maybe Beyonce and Grey's Anatomy and Love Island, right? On the male side of things, it's, I don't know, obsession with sports, with You know, men get criticized for being obsessed with cars. I'm gonna be honest with you, this is obviously anecdotal, but I haven't really met too many men that actually solely only obsess about cars. They talk only about cars. While I don't deny those people exist, I have to say that that's not my experience, at least. But of course, on the female side of things, I can understand, like, why are you obsessed with cars. I can say that I can admire or like a car because I view it as like a piece of engineering art. A car can be gorgeous, you know, the technology can be insane, but I wouldn't say I'm like hyped up about cars. I can think the mechanic side of things can be pretty cool. It's a very good skill to know as well. But for me, as long as it's comfortable, it takes me from A to B, I'm good with it. And have somewhat good design, you know what I mean? And that's it from my perspective of things when it comes to you know, cars. But perhaps I derailed there. The second thing I would say, that being on the spectrum and you know, having these special interests and being high IQ or highly intelligent, is the relationship with friends. And you know, I love my friends, and also family. I love my family. I would love to, you know, whenever they need help, I try to be there at the best of their ability. But you know, they just don't understand why I'm not into the stuff that they're into. You know, it's just they might take it as arrogance, right? It's not arrogance from my side. I just find those things very boring. That's it. Just like a lot of people find geopolitics boring, okay? They might find philosophy very boring. You know, tough shit. I have to accept that in a way. They have to accept that I find those things more entertaining. And maybe I have also, as of late, kind of idealized strength, physical strength a lot. And a lot of people in my, you know, immediate circle, many of them at least, or some of them, maybe don't view it the same way. You know, when you do all these burpees and calisthenics workouts and Muay Thai, to them it's nothing to them. To me, it's a very important skill to have, and I think it's very important to know how to, you know, to be physically fit, to present yourself in a more respectable manner, right? In terms of the physical aspect. Of course, that's not the end-all be-all, you know what I mean? That's just one aspect out of many, but I think it's important, you know? A lot of people would admire that. They would admire discipline. That's why I never understood these, some of these incels, why they just sit behind a computer screen and complain. Okay, even if you don't get laid, bro, at least cope with it with physical exercise. Like that to me is like way better than fucking smoking cigarettes and playing World of Warcraft all day. But yeah, at least be a gym cell. Don't be a fucking incel, you know. That's how I kind of see it. So yeah, the strenuous relationship with friends and family. I would say that a lot of people, in my situation, for example, I've had a hard time maintaining jobs, right? A lot of jobs that have to do with working with people. You know, some people think that I just transitioning out of social work was just this, you know, easy thing to do. You know, just one day I woke up and then I was like, fuck it, I hate this shit. Fuck this shit. No. To actually have put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into that thing was actually and just, you know, knowing that you're not designed for that was it can be, you know, I try not to think about it too much, but it can be sometimes, it can be extremely frustrating, you know. It can. And people just think that it's just, you know, he just loves working, you know, different types of jobs and, you know, blah, 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 or he's just too incompetent to keep them. It's not that I'm incompetent. It's that I get burnt the fuck out a lot of times. Okay. I have discovered now that working with my hands, working outdoors, you know, that suits me better. Hopefully I can get into, you know, landscaping and road construction, depending on, you know, how the economy will become and all this stuff. So yeah, but you know, at 31, I am literally starting over my life. I feel like I'm 10 years behind. And that's something that, you know, people, my friend circle and my family, sometimes I feel like they can't understand that. That part can be extremely frustrating. You know what I mean? So that's I think that's a short summary of what it's like to be on the spectrum, or you know, having special interests and stuff like that. How it is not, it's absolutely, it's not a blessing, in my opinion. I think it's a curse in many regards. Yeah, I also forgot to add one more thing. Like autism and the workspace, office politics, you know, I can't handle that. You know what I mean? There's so much Machiavellianism, so much like chit-chatting behind your back. And you know, I have a friend that works in finance, or used to work in finance. He's autistic. He's great at the job in and of itself. But this is in the United States. I can assume it's pretty similar in Sweden. He just couldn't handle the after work gatherings that they always want you to go to. It's very socially draining, right? And then on top of that, he's African American. He's in a very white dominating space. You know, there's a lot of passive aggressive, microaggression, racist bullshit that he has to face. For example, a lot of his white colleagues thought that he was only hired because of DEI, I think it's called, right? But that's funny, because DEI actually benefited white women and Hispanics, and I think gays, way more than it benefited African Americans. But nonetheless, he loved the tasks in and of itself, like working with Excel spreadsheets and doing calculus and stuff like that. But the constant social gatherings after work, because you got to do them to network and, you know, to basically have appearances, right? To show up, just to show up. And yeah, he couldn't handle that. Me personally, I just couldn't handle you know, the small talk in the social work sphere, right? You know, how long are you gonna mask yourself? And at the end of the day, you spend what, 8 hours at your work, right? Sometimes more, depending on if you work as a, you know, work within the social services, or let's say you're working in some kind of institution, then it can be longer. You always have to hide who you are. You know what I mean? You can't be fully transparent. Obviously, you can perhaps never be, but you know, you can't really talk about, you know, the stuff that you like, you know, because you will be punished for it. Sweden is a very conformist country. When I used to work within security, you know, you had people there that were just obsessed. They had this homosexual obsession with Russia. It's like Russia lives rent-free in Swedish people's brains, right? And as soon as you have some criticism of Ukraine or Israel or whatever, you know, you're a Putinist, which is not even a real ideology, right? In fact, Putin is considered very liberal in Russia. He is liberal, by the way. This guy has been trying to negotiate back and forth, you know, for the longest. You should listen to guys like Medvedev and other Russian nationalists. They're very hawkish. Thank God they're not in power, by the way, because yeah, the stuff they have been saying is not good for us from a geostrategic standpoint, right? But anyway, you know, just utter some criticism of Ukraine. Oh, you know, you're a Russian agent. If you have any nuanced view on, let's say, Iran, you're considered an agent of the Islamic Republic. You know, when people say that Americans are this and that, fair enough. But you know, Europeans should look themselves in the mirror sometimes. You know, this country is it's very extreme in its own ways. Now the conformity is batshit crazy to me. But yeah, that's the last thing I wanted to add. So yeah, if you like the video, hit the like button. Oh, my last 2 cents on this. Being intelligent is overrated. It's just gonna cause a lot of conflict. I had a lot of conflict in the school system, especially in the curriculum of social science and history and philosophy and stuff like that. All I gotta say is to any person out there who's like, oh, how can I increase my IQ, and you know, how can I be more knowledgeable about this and that subject and stuff like that, bro, trust me, you're just gonna be very rebellious. You're gonna have a hard time forming relationships. You're gonna have a hard time finding, you know, stable employment. You know, if you're even looking to become an activist, damn, make sure you at least go to a community that you feel home with. I personally don't feel ideologically home anywhere in this country. You know what I mean? But yeah, if you're expecting people to protest for your rights, if you go to prison, and you know, that you will have a bunch of people with, you know, t-shirts that says free your whatever your name is, you just forget about it. You know, this country and Western Europe in general, they might not kill you in terms of death penalty, right? They will slowly kill you with isolation. And a lot of the silencing, a lot of the oppression, it comes from the bottom, if you ask me. It's not just from you know, institutions. It's actually from the public in and of itself, because you know, Scandinavians, in particular Swedes, for example, they're very hyper liberal. And you know, even with people I disagree with, let's say people that are members of the Nordic resistance movement, right? You know, a lot of these guys, they live very isolated lives. So yeah, they're in their little sect, and that's it. You know, outside of that community, they're pretty much persona non grata, right? They're lepers, and that could be applied to a lot of people. You know, not just them. You know, so if they do this to you as a white Swedish person who is critical, a critic of the system, perhaps, imagine what they're gonna do to yeah, anybody that is critical of the system, so, or of liberalism per se. Yeah, so that's all I wanted to add. If you like my content, again, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and share it. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.